Daniel had always been an average man with an average life, stuck in an endless cycle of routine. Every morning, he woke up feeling exhausted, went to work at a job he didn't enjoy, and returned home too tired to do anything meaningful. He had dreams once, big ones. He wanted to be a writer, to travel, to live a life that excited him. But life had a way of dulling those dreams into nothing more than distant echoes. As the years passed, he convinced himself that change was impossible. It was always the same excuses. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I wouldn't even know where to start. He was trapped in his own mind, believing that big transformations were only for people who had resources, talent, or luck. He was just a regular guy with bills to pay and responsibilities to manage. One evening, Daniel sat on his worn-out couch, scrolling through social media, watching people achieve incredible things. Someone was running a marathon, another had lost 100 pounds, and another had quit their job to travel the world. He sighed, feeling that familiar sting of regret. That was when he stumbled upon a video of an elderly man sharing his wisdom. "You don't need to take giant leaps," the man said. "Just take one small step. One tiny change. And then another. Before you know it, you'll be in a place you never imagined." Something about those words struck Daniel deeply. He had spent years believing change was impossible because it seemed too overwhelming. But what if he just made one small change? Just one? The next morning, instead of hitting the snooze button 5 times, he got up after just one. It wasn't much, but it felt different. That day, instead of rushing out the door with just coffee, he made himself a proper breakfast. Again, not a huge change, but something. That night, instead of scrolling through his phone until he fell asleep, he picked up a book he had always meant to read. Just 10 pages. It felt insignificant at first, but something inside him felt lighter. Day by day, he added tiny changes. He started walking for 10 minutes after work instead of collapsing onto the couch. Then 10 minutes turned into 15. Then 20. Instead of ordering takeout every night, he cooked once a week. Then twice. Then 3 times. He wrote for 5 minutes before bed. At first, it felt silly. What could 5 minutes possibly do? But those 5 minutes became 10, then 20, then an hour. Weeks passed, and Daniel started noticing something remarkable. He felt better. He slept better. He had more energy. And most surprisingly, he felt proud of himself. Months passed, and those tiny steps turned into habits. He no longer needed to force himself to go for a walk. He craved it. Writing wasn't a chore. It was the best part of his day. Cooking his own meals wasn't just healthier. It was something he enjoyed. And the most unexpected transformation? He started believing in himself again. For years, he had told himself that he wasn't the kind of person who could change, that success was for other people. But now, he had proof that he was capable. 1 year later, Daniel barely recognized himself. He had lost weight, not because he forced himself into a strict diet, but because he simply made better choices. He had written over 100 pages of his novel, something he once thought was impossible. He had saved money without even trying, just by cutting out unnecessary expenses. And more importantly, he was happy. Not the fleeting kind of happiness that came from distractions, but real, deep contentment. Looking back, it wasn't one grand moment that changed his life. There was no dramatic turning point, no sudden stroke of luck. It was the small steps, the tiny, seemingly insignificant choices, that had led to his transformation. And as he sat at his desk, writing the final chapter of his book, he realized something powerful. Change isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about taking the smallest step, right now, and letting it build into something extraordinary. And for the first time in his life, Daniel knew he was just getting started.